Assalamu alaikum. I am Maira Latif from MS Chemistry. The topic that I'm going to present and discuss is immersion and its chemistry. The contents that I have covered in this topic are introduction of emulsion, types of emulsion, mechanisms of emulsion, then emulsifiers, common fault emulsifiers, instabilities in emulsion, and uses of emulsion. Starting with the definition of emulsion, trying to get a basic concept of emulsion. Emulsions are biphasic liquid system consisting of two immiscible liquid phases. These phases are present in such a way that one phase is dispersed in the other continuous phase. Emulsions are part of a more general class of two-phase systems of matter called colloids. Although the terms colloid and emulsion are sometimes used interchangeably, the term emulsion is used only when both the phases are in liquid state. The examples can be mayonnaise, milk, lotion, etc. Discussing more about emulsion can be defined in other ways as emulsion is a mixture of two liquids that don't fully combine. An emulsion may look like a single liquid, but it's made up of particles of one liquid disturbed throughout another liquid. For example, if you whisk together oil and water, it forms an emulsion in which small droplets of oil are suspended in water, but the two liquids aren't fully blended together as they would be if you stirred together water and vinegar, for example. In technical chemistry terms, an emulsion is a colloidal suspension in which the substances mixed together are both liquids. Both colloids and suspension involves particles of one substance distributed in another without being dissolved. The next is the type of emulsions. Emulsions typically consist of a polar and a non-polar liquid phase. The polar phase can be any aqueous, and the non-polar can be an oil. Based on the nature of the internal and external phase, emulsion can be classified into different types. The first type is oil in water emulsion. When the oil phase is dispersed as globules throughout the aqueous continuous phase, the system is referred to as an oil in water emulsion. An oil in water emulsion is generally formed if the aqueous phase constitutes more than 45% of total weight, and hydrophilic emulsifiers such as sodium lauryl sulfate, triethanol amine stearate, sodium oleate, and glyceryl monostearate is used. The emulsifiers is present in the external continuous phase and helps stabilize the interface with the dispersed phase globules. The next type is water in oil emulsion. When the aqueous phase is dispersed and the oil phase is a continuous phase, the emulsion is termed as water in oil emulsion. A lipophilic emulsifier is used for preparing water in oil emulsions. The water in oil emulsions are mainly used for external applications and may contain one or several of the following emulsifiers: calcium palmitate, sorbitan esters, cholesterol, and wool fats. Thus, the use of lipophilic emulsifiers enables the formation of water in oil emulsions with the oil phase as an external continuous phase. The key difference between oil in water emulsion and water in oil emulsion is that oil in water emulsions have oil droplets suspended in water, whereas water in oil emulsions have water droplets suspended in oil. Another main difference can be the oil in water and water in oil emulsion is that to achieve the stability of water in oil emulsions, that they required two or more emulsifiers, but to achieve the stability of oil in water emulsion, it requires only one emulsifier. The next type is multiple emulsions. Multiple emulsions are emulsions whose dispersed phase contains droplets of another emulsion, but water in water and oil in water in oil. Multiple emulsions are of interest as delayed and sustained actions drug delivery system. They also have application in cosmetics. Emulsifying a water in oil emulsion using water soluble surfactants. Surfactants stabilize an oily dispersed phase. So these surfactants can produce water in water emulsions with an external aqueous phase, which generally has a lower viscosity than the primary water in oil emulsion. Multiple emulsions can also be used for the encapsulation of peptides or proteins and hydrophilic drugs. The next type is microemulsions. Microemulsions are visually homogeneous, transparent, or isotropic systems of low viscosity. In their simplest form, microemulsions are small droplets and their diameter ranges from 5 to 140 nanometer of one liquid dispersed throughout another by virtue of the presence of a fairly large amount of surfactant and co-solvent. Microemulsions have a very finely subdivided dispersed phase and often contain a high concentration of the emulsifier and co-solvents. Microemulsions are thermodynamically stable for prolonged periods of time. They can be a dispersion of oil in water or water in oil. The type of microemulsions formed is determined largely by the nature of the surfactants. Microemulsions can be used to increase the bioavailability of poorly water-soluble drugs by incorporating them into the oily phase. Incorporation of etoposide and methotrexate diester derivatives into water in oil microemulsion has been suggested as a potential carrier for cancer therapy. The next is macroemulsion. Macroemulsions are dispersed liquid thermodynamically unstable systems with particle size ranging from 1 to 100 nanometer in order of magnitude, which most often do not form spontaneously. Microemulsions scatter light effectively and therefore appear milky because their droplets are greater than a wavelength of light. They are part of a large family of emulsions along with mini emulsions. They are also called nano emulsions. As with all emulsions, one phase serves as dispersing agent. It is often called the continuous or outer phase. Um, this type of emulsion is thermodynamically unstable but can be stabilized for a period of time with applications of kinetic energy. Surfactants are used to reduce the interfacial tension between the two phases and induce macroemulsion stability for a useful amount of time. The next is nano emulsion. Nano emulsions have small droplet size and are kinetically stable colloidal systems. They have enhanced functional properties in comparison to conventional emulsion. The composition and structure of nano emulsions can be controlled for the encapsulation and effective delivery of bioactive lipophilic compounds. Nano emulsions have potential application in the food industry for the delivery of nutraceuticals, coloring, and flavor agents, and antimicrobials. The nano emulsion formulations of active ingredients can be used for developing biodegradable coating and packaging films to enhance the quality, functional properties, nutritional values, and the shelf life of food. The next is mechanism of emulsification. And there are different mechanisms. A number of different chemical and physical processes and mechanisms can be involved in the process of emulsification. These are monomolecular adsorption theory, oriented wedge theory, oriented adsorption theory, plastic or interfacial film theory, surface tension theory, interfacial tension theory, Fischer's theory of hydrates and solvents, and viscosity theory. The first is monomolecular adsorption theory. It says that surface active agents or amphiphiles reduce interfacial tension because of their adsorption at the oil interface to form a monomolecular films. In practice, combination of emulsifiers rather than single agents are used most frequently today in the preparation of emulsions. Hydrophilic emulsifiers in the aqueous phase and a hydrophobic agent in the oil phase to form a complex film at the interface. The examples include the combination of sodium acetyl sulfate and cholesterol and the sodium sidyl sulfate and oil alcohol. Three mixtures of emulsifying agent at the oil water interface. The combination of sodium acetyl sulfate and cholesterol leads to a complex thin film that produces an excellent emulsion. Then sodium sidyl sulfate and oil alcohol do not form a closely packed or condensed film. Consequently, their combination results in a poor emulsion. The next is oriented wedge theory. This theory deals with the formation of monomolecular layer of emulsifying agents curved around a droplet of the internal phase of the emulsion. It have two further steps. Emulsifier molecules oriented at interface. Dotted lines indicate the large value occupied by polar head due to formation of hydrated solvents, as it can be seen in the figure. So the second shows that the close packaging of molecules fits the curvature. The example, in a system containing two immiscible liquids, emulsifying agents would be preferentially soluble in one of the phase and would be embedded in that phase. The next is oriented adsorption theory, and this theory says, as per this theory, the added emulsifying agent forms a mechanical film while getting adsorption at the interface of the liquid and offers stability to emulsion. However, this theory cannot explain the formation and type of emulsion. The next is a plastic or interfacial film theory. The plastic or interfacial film theory places the emulsifying agent at the interface between the oil and water, surrounding the droplets of internal phase as a thin layer of film adsorbed on the surface of the drops. The formation of an oil in water and water in oil emulsion depends on the degree of solubility of the agent in two phases, with water-soluble agents encouraging in oil in water emulsion and soluble emulsifiers in reverse. The next is surface tension theory. According to the surface tension theory of Emulsification, the emulsifying agents cause a reduction in the interfacial tensions of the two immiscible liquids, reducing the repellent force between the liquid and the withdrawing the attraction of liquids for their own molecules. In this way, the surfactants convert large globules into small ones and avoid small globules from coalescing into large ones. In this way, the surfactants converts large globules into small ones and avoid small globules from coalescing into large ones. The next is interfacial tension theory. This theory states that when two immiscible liquids once in contact, the force causing each liquid to resist breakage is known as interfacial tension. When a high interfacial tension exists between two liquids, emulsification is difficult. And if the tension could be reduced, emulsification facilitated. The explanation that oil and water dispersion, the interfacial tension is so great that when two globules of the dispersed phase approach each other, it withdraws the liquid form between them. With the rest, they coalesces. When the interfacial tension is greatly reduced by the addition of emulsifiers, the globules remain separate. The next is Fischer's theory of hydrates and solvents. Fischer observed that the use of specific ratios of emulsifying agent to continuous phase, he claimed that the quantity of water in these specified ratios was all used up in forming a colloidal hydrate. This theory does not attempt to explain the formation of concentration emulsions and not explain how globules in an emulsions are prevented from coalescing and separation into two layers. The next is viscosity theory. An increase in viscosity, as per this theory, an increase in viscosity of an emulsion will lead to an increase in the stability. This theory failed to explain about the milk, which shows considerably stability even though its viscosity is less. This theory is holds good for emulsions prepared with gums as emulsifying agents, but it collapses on no explanation of the emulsions made with comparatively low viscosity and greater stability. The next is an emulsifier. First, let's define what an emulsifier is. As soon as the stirring heads, the emulsion starts to separate again, and to maintain this even mixture, an emulsifier is essential. A full emulsifier acts as a bond that holds the particles of the ingredients all together. It makes the finished product soft and smooth in texture, improves the quality of mixture, and keeps it from stabilized. Water spattering in food preparation, the cooking is also reduced by an emulsifier. It leads to better dispersion, solubilization, crystal modification, foaming, cleaning ability, etc. Emulsions have many functions in food processing, even in other industries as well. And now the common food emulsifiers. Now that we have understood the definition and function of an emulsifier in processed food, it's time to jump into the common food emulsifiers. The first one is lecithin. Lecithin is widely used in the commercial baking industry. This emulsifier composed of fatty compound is present in eggs. Emulsifying properties are stored in the phospholipids existing in lecithin. It actually prevents the split of water and oil particles. Good HDL cholesterol content is decreased when lecithin is added to the food mixture, as stated by scientists. The droplet of oil in water are kept safe by this emulsifier, increasing the stability and shelf life of the food. Lecithin is overflowing with high benefit too. It prevents high cholesterol and cirrhosis caused by drinking alcohol. Also, it improves nerve, brain, and muscle functions. The next is fatty acid derivatives. There are different emulsifiers that can be derived from fatty acid. To name a few are polyglycerol ester polysorbates, stearoyl acetylates, propylene glycol esters, and sucrose esters are commonly known. In desserts like cake and their icing, PGE is famously used for toppings that are whippable. Propylene glycol esters is mainly applied. Other products like gums, coffee, sauces, etc. need sucrose esters in holding their particles. Third one is polyglycerol, polyglycinolate. Baking is an appealing activity, especially for moms. We all agree that cooking a tasty that we are sweet tooths would always go for anything. In manufacturing chocolates for applications such as baking, polyglycerol, polyglycinolate works in enhancing the thickness of and volume of the product. Chocolate coating flow satisfactorily with PGPR is added into this mixture. It also complements lecithin when combined. Factories find polyglycerol, polyresinolate as a helpful agent in maintaining the good quality of the chocolate or other products that require certain smoothness and viscosity. With that, baking will be much fun for everybody who loves it. The fourth one is ammonium phosphatide. Ammonium phosphatide is sunflower paste. The use of ammonium phosphatide has been most triumphant in chocolate and confectionery manufacturing. It is chiefly useful in achieving uniformity and steadiness for the mixture, leading to high quality food products. It also pretty well in keeping the right attribute of the foods, the size, texture, smell, thickness, etc. Ammonium phosphatide can be used as a good alternative of lecithin, but it can also be applied with it. The next one is mono and diglycerides. Glycerides stay firm in so-called alpha-glycerol formation. As it is very versatile, it works well in forms that are whippable while managing the agglomeration of fats. When water molecules needs to be dispersed in a fat phase, monoglyceride serves as an instrument that fairly distributes water into the oil. For products like chocolates, it gives a sensation that feels like the food product is melting inside your mouth, adding the tastiness of the food. It forms a smoothness and consistency of the processed milk. The crystalline structure of the food becomes balanced through itself. These are the most used food emulsifiers from the early times, and today they are produced when palatable oils are blended with glycerine. Aside from chocolates, baked and dairy products are also the ones to consume the most as well. The next is instabilities in immersion. The ability of an immersion to retain its property over time is known as the stability of immersion. Four types of instabilities of immersions are discussed. The first one is flocculation. When the particles or droplets of the dispersed phase aggregate together on account of attractive forces, the phenomena is known as flocculation and results in an unstable system. Flocculation is mainly observed in case of oil in water type of emulsions. The next is coalescence. When the droplets of discontinuous phase bump into each other to form a larger droplet, thus increasing the average particle size over time, it is known as coalescence, which is form of instability. The next is creaming. When the droplets in an emulsion rise to the top of emulsion under the influence of buoyancy or centripetal force, it results in the creaming of emulsion. The last one is ostwald ripening. It describes the change of an inhomogeneous structure over time, that is, small crystals or soil particles dissolve and redeposit into larger crystals or soil particles. Ostwald ripening is generally found in water in oil emulsions. The next is uses of emulsion. It can be used as foods in healthcare and chemical synthesis. As food, oil in water emulsions are common in food products. Examples include butter, margarine, homogenized milk, mayonnaise, etc. Um, in healthcare, it can be used in cosmetics. Many cosmetics and pharmaceutical dosage forms are in the form of emulsions. Cosmetics such as lotion, cream, biphasic makeup removers are in fact emulsions. Many oral as well as topical dosage forms are emulsions. Microemulsions are used to deliver vaccines and kill microbes. Cod liver oil, cortisol, polysporin are some examples of emulsion formations. Then in chemical synthesis, emulsions are used in the manufacture of polymer dispersions. These include primary components of glues and paints. That's all I have to discuss about emulsions. Thank you.